I have days when I feel truly present and I want as much as I can to enjoy those, to be spontaneous, to be in the day, to think this is fun because no other reason than it's fun and I'm here and I'm alive. And if we can't allow ourselves that, then what's the point anyway? Do you know what I mean? What's the point in doing all of this if we're still not able to be present? It's a trap in many ways, by the way, that I think everybody that goes on this journey discovers.
We'll make it out and fall in love tonight.
That was one thing that I wanted to talk. I've got so much that I want to talk to you about.
Well, let's dive in. Let's get in. Yeah.
There's so many things. You bring up that walk. That was one thing that I wanted to hit on, like right off the bat. What was the inspiration for that, dude? Because it was an amazing thing to kind of watch vicariously, by the way.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I wanted to do something, right? And so I've known now, I recognize it's certainly like this in the UK. I would imagine it's similar where you are. But if you want to get the government to actually act and create meaningful change, policy change, it's like you would like to think that you just need to show them that there's a real issue. And then they'll go, oh my God, I can't believe this isn't being funded. But it doesn't work like that at all, right? They will only change if they feel like there's gain in terms of holding on to their power, gaining more votes. I had an MP say to me many years ago now, actually, what you have to understand, Josh, is that there's no votes in children of alcoholics. And so what he was saying is you gotta, if you want to get back in for it, you got to find a different way. So I've always known that in order to create policy, you need to in order to create policy change, you need to create, capture the imagination of the public, try and get the media and the news involved. And then sometimes the government will think either there's a quick win for us if we throw a bit of money at this, or, we might lose votes if we don't do anything about it now. So the truth was, in the walk, I wanted to do something that was grueling and felt like it would push me, but I didn't want to do any training. That's the truth. So like, like a run, if you do a run, you've got to train for months in the run up to it. I was just like, I'm going to walk and see what happens. And then doing it on my own was like, I wanted to do it on my own. Like the thought of doing it with people felt harder to me, if I'm honest with you. So, I don't know what that tells you about me, but I also wanted to, signify children being left alone and having no support. So there was a bit of that in there. And then we got the letter from Amelie, a young girl who, her and her mum do a lot with NACOA. And it blew up. It blew up and did exactly what we hoped it would. And I finished the walk, sat down in 10 Downing Street with policy makers, genuinely pitching for change. So it was good. It was physically way harder than I ever thought it would be.
How far was it?
92 miles. So I did it in 3 days. So I did just about 31 miles on day 1, 37 miles on day 2, and then 24 or whatever it was, whatever's left was on day 3. Yeah.
What is that, like 10, 12 hours of walking every day or something? That's a haul, dude.
Day 2 was 15 hours nonstop. No
Wow.
breaks. Just going flat 15 hours. I left at 5 a.m. and I got to the hotel for that night at 8 p.m. Yeah.
Are you hauling everything with you too, or do you have people dropping stuff off to you? And...
No. Everything I had was with me. My bag weighed about 10 kg, which I don't know what that converts to in your money, in pounds. But it was heavy. Yeah, it was, and it didn't need to be that heavy. Like I took I've got a thing about my laptop and my iPad. I don't like going anywhere without it. So I had my laptop and iPad in my bag. An idiot, man. I'm such an idiot. So yeah, the bag was the bit that like made it even harder, I think. Yeah.
So what came up for you over the course of that walk? Like, were you battling lots of demons? Were in your head a lot about it? Or did you just kind of put your head down and get it done?
Yeah, put my head down and get it done. What was super interesting is, and I kind of knew this anyway, but that really hit home to me. I didn't struggle mentally at all. Like being on my own, because I was walking, was easy. Like I could have, take the pain away. I could have done it for days and days and days and days. At no point did I feel like I missed people. Like, but if you'd have made me sit, and maybe I'll try this one day, but if I had to sit alone and not move, you know, in a room, I don't know if I could do 3 days without going crazy. So, but that walking movement, the notion of walking, yeah, it was, I mean, it wasn't just easy. I loved it. I mean, it was the physical, you know, the mental battle against the pain was different. But in terms of being in my head, nah, like I did wonder, you know, will I start battling again? You know, will loads of stuff come up? But it didn't. It felt so freeing. It felt, again, take the pain aside. It felt like the best thing to do for myself. You know, in fact, I just thought if I could do this every day, I'd be all right.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Did you feel like at any point did you notice that maybe things were falling off of you in a sense that you were leaving stuff on the walk?
Not really. I mean, no, you know, again, I did think, am I going to come and get some big learnings from this? Am I going to come away in that way? But I didn't really. I mean, maybe I left a little bit of like shame and self-loathing in terms of like, I do think that it did make me think I'm doing some really good things in the world. Like I spent a bit of time with that, and that's perhaps something that I'm not great at doing. You know, I tend to just, if I do something good, I'm like, people are like, oh, I hope you take time to really let this set in what you've done. And I'm like, yeah, I will. And then, but I'm not. I'm already thinking like, what's the next thing to do? You know, so maybe the fact that I was walking for 3 days, I spent a little bit of time with that. Yeah.
Josh, it's been about a year since you were on the podcast the first time. Some of those memories are popping up on social media on our end. And I'm like, oh, how cool is it that quite literally it was like a year ago this week was when the episode with you first aired. And I was wondering what has changed for you over the course of that year? Because like you just said, like sometimes it's hard to reflect back on the things that you've accomplished and the things that you've done. But we're always in the state of like realizing that if we don't really pause and turn around and look at where we're at, it just feels like same different day. And when it comes to like that inner process of healing and really unpacking and growing and evolving, I think the reflection part of it is the part that's like really, really necessary, because it gives you that boost to kind of keep going when you realize, wait a minute, I've made these massive changes, sometimes over a really short amount of time. So what's different for you today than it was a year ago?
Well, my book came out. My book came out in July last year, and then came out in the States sometime this year. I think it was like March. And then there's been like, it's come out in a few different languages as well over the course of that time. So that like changed a lot for me in terms of the work that I'm doing. It, you know, I don't know, opened me up to a new audience, you might say. But on a personal level, I feel like in the last year I have stepped more unapologetically into myself. Now I would probably argue that my platform growing in the way that it has, the kind of trust in me from people in general, in terms of like the audience that I've grown, has maybe helped that as well. But I definitely feel like I am more myself than I've ever been, and more comfortable with myself, without feeling like I need to sort of be a certain way in order to be accepted. And I do think that's been a process for me over the course of, you know, however many years that I've been doing this in the public eye, shall we say. And when I say in the public eye, when I started with Nakoa 10 years ago. The walk marked 10 years with Nakoa. So that's when I first got, so I didn't have social media before then. You know, I don't use social media in that way, right? I'm not remotely, I'm never doing something where I think oh, this would be cool to share with people, right? Where everything that I share is through growing what I've grown. It's very unnatural for me to, I'm quite the opposite. I'm quite the opposite, you know. I don't ever think about getting my camera out to share stuff with the world, you know what I mean? So so yeah, maybe like that's been, I would say that's different for me this year on a personal level, and you know, in terms of the work that I do.
Today's episode is brought to you by Woolly. Most fabrics today are packed with synthetic materials, microplastics that shed into the environment and your skin.
But not Woolly clothes. All of their apparel is made with natural merino wool. And the very first time I tried Woolly, I was hooked. I swapped out all of my boxers, not just because they're comfortable and feel good, but I'm also concerned about not leaching any of those harmful chemicals you know where. I mean, come on.
Craig loves his boxers, and let me tell you, I can't get enough of their panties either. They're so soft and comfortable, it almost feels like I'm not wearing any underwear at all.
Merino wool isn't just soft and comfortable. It's naturally moisture wicking, helps regulate your temperature naturally, and odor resistant. So with temperatures heating up this summer, it's time to go with some Woolly.
And right now, listeners of Steph and Craig get 15% off of everything at Woolly. Click the link in the description. Be sure to enter promo code Steph and Craig and save your 15% now.
Wear better, feel better with Woolly clothing.
The book has just, you know, feels like it's taken things to another level again, you know.
I was going to say, what's something that has happened that's came out with the book that you didn't see coming? Something that kind of caught you by surprise, something that opened up?
It's probably the change in trust in myself, right? So what do I mean by that? How can I sort of tie that in a more precise way? You know, when people talk about the whole inner critic, it's not that my inner critic... yeah. It's not that my critic's gone remotely, right? But I always felt like I was a bit of a fraud. I've always felt a little bit like a fraud. I've always had a sense that sooner or later people are going to find out and I'll get exposed, right? And then you say, well, you know, find out what or get exposed in what way? And I have no answer for you. So I feel like having released the book, and I don't know if it's all to do with the book, but certainly in the last year, I feel way more comfortable now in being able to say, well, you know, find out what, let them find out, you know. It doesn't bother me as much. It used to sort of really hang over me as quite a fear, whereas now, that I would say that doesn't really exist in me. The critic does in different ways, of course, but I don't feel so worried about being found out anymore, which I guess means shame has subsided quite a lot in me. Yeah.
You just released an episode of your podcast where you talked about 13 years of sobriety, because that was another anniversary that just came up for you. And I have to tell you, dude, like that episode, it was, because I'm a fan of your stuff already, Josh. I know that we talked about this last year when you were on the podcast, but I followed you for several years and stuff. And that was the most vulnerable, honest, like real, because you're always, you know, you do all of those things in your content on a regular basis, as far as like being real and vulnerable and honest and truthful, and you're sharing things in a genuine way. But that was like the most that I had ever seen you do before and kind of witness. And I thought, like, I was incredibly like excited for you. I know how hard those conversations can be sometimes to have, and to have them in such a way where you know that people are going to be listening on the other side of it. But what did that feel like for you? I mean, that was a major accomplishment, I can imagine.
Yeah, I think when I first started doing stuff with Nakoa 10 years ago, right? I used to share like that quite a lot, because what happened is I went to Nakoa, shared about my experiences as a child, right? Which, by the way, is slightly different to sharing what I was like as an adult, yeah, or into my more adult years. Because, you know, when I was sharing about when I was a child, you're kind of innocent, right? So when you're sharing your failings that will come about when you're an adult, it is a different context. But when I would share very vulnerably in that way when I first started doing it. But I sort of realized in the end that a lot of that was driven by like, see me, like people told me how amazing it was. And then I started doing it in public, and then people would, like, loads of people would say, oh my God, it's so amazing. You're so vulnerable. and then I sort of like went back into being, I would say more sort of, I don't want to use the word normal, but like normal levels of sharing, not these big, it was like, it, it was a process that I went through, but it wouldn't necessarily be healthy to be like it all of the time, you know? So, I realize now that sort of in the way that you've described, I still will answer honestly when I'm asked questions, and I'll be vulnerable, but I realized I'd never, certainly for a long time hadn't talked about who I was, or you could argue who I've been, the same thing, is it? But part of who I am is what I'm trying to say. It's part of who I am, right? I don't get to call it. It did happen in the past, but so yeah, it was quite, I don't know, man. It felt very aligned, and I felt very ready to do it. You know what I mean? So, and it's not anything I didn't share anything necessarily that I would normally hide, but it's not that I wouldn't normally share that. And I think that's because, it's easy for people to forget, and me to forget, that I am like, I'm just an alcoholic who got sober and has stayed sober a little while. And it's very easy to forget that under all of this, on a daily basis, I've got to make sure I stay sober. You know what I mean? And that's like it's a huge part of my life. Huge part of my life, because I was, I didn't stop drinking for a lifestyle choice, Most people like me end up dead young, That's the truth. So yeah, it was a good reminder, a very good reminder for me, certainly. I'm pleased you listened, man. And it's still, I don't know if you two are the same, right? Because you got this, you got a growing platform on your podcast and stuff. It's still like, there's still a bit of me when someone's like, I listened, I'm like, oh really? Oh, thank you. Like, I still feel like that every time. I'm sure you're both the same, really.
Yeah, we totally do. Anytime somebody's like, yeah, we listen, like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it blows our mind. I wanted to ask you, because one of the things that I've been butting up against in the last couple of months is, like you that point where you're talking about, like, it's in the past, like it's part of me and it's part of who I am, but I'm not that thing anymore, right? I've done so much growth and change and development, and even just on the scope of, like, we change, everybody changes, 5 years from now, we're all going to be different than we are right now. But one of the things that I'm really confronting is what part of, like, my past and the story that I have both externally been telling people and kind of, like, in some ways very much wanting to be seen and validated, but at the same time too, it's like I recognized that there was parts of my story that I had to be able to tell and I had to be able to share, because it was healing in order to do that. It was validating in order to do that. It gave me pieces that I didn't have and that I really needed. And then it feels like in the last couple of months, it's like I'm tired of telling those same old fucking stories.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of walking down those same paths. And I'm tired of rehashing and revisiting all of these traumas and these things that had their time and had their place and definitely impacted me and affected me. But I'm not wanting to go back into those spaces anymore. And for me, it was like, I'm struggling trying to decide if it's just me, avoiding kind of the hard work of it and going back into it and not wanting to, just check out of that process and get past it. But I think that there's another level of it where it's like, yeah, it's time to lay that to rest in order to move on and see what's next. Because I'm recognizing that it's kind of holding me back. So I'm projecting a ton of this shit outward onto you, Josh, because I want you to validate it in me and say, yeah, I totally relate and I'm in the same spot.
Yeah. No, that's your shit, man. I don't get it. No, I'm joking. Listen, we're like 100% with you. I think that there's like, while I was listening to you and like, because I resonate with what you're saying, right? I think there's like something similar to survivor's guilt that we get, right? Which is like, if I put all this to bed now, am I sort of devaluing it? Am I like, or not put it to bed, but like, I don't need to go there anymore. I've come through it, right? And it's almost like, if you want to keep looking in it, you'll find stuff in it, And I remember once somebody said, I don't remember who gave me this analogy, but like,
Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Routine.
We've been on the hunt for an electrolyte powder that we can add to our water every day, and we're excited to say we found it.
Morning Routine is a special blend of organic lemon, apple cider vinegar, Himalayan sea salt, and all the other essential electrolytes that you need for your day. It's non-GMO, organic, dairy and gluten-free,
Soy-free, sugar-free, keto-friendly, 100% vegan, and made in the USA. And one of my favorite things about Routine is that it doesn't contain any synthetic dyes or preservatives.
You simply add water, shake it up, and enjoy the nutrients that your body needs for the day. We've been enjoying Routine for a while now and can't wait to share it with you.
Right now, listeners of the podcast can save 10% off anything at Routine. Head over to yourroutine.com/Steph and Craig and be sure to enter promo code Steph and Craig at checkout to save you your 10%.
Start your day off the right way with Morning Routine. Your body will thank you.
you know, on your journey, you go into the metaphoric library, and when you first go in there, everything's just all over the floor. The books are just everywhere of your experiences, yeah. And what you do for the work is you pick up the books, you read them, you recognize where they are, and they put them, you know, you put them back in their rightful place. And it's like, you know, when you've read them and you know what they are, and you're aware of what's in them, and you've put them back, they're there. It's not like you're pretending now that they don't exist. You're just putting them back and thinking, I don't need to, you know, go through that anymore. Because there is a difference between, I think, sorting through our experiences, right? And looking through the things that we went through and trying to acknowledge how it shaped some of the ways that we are today, right? That's good. It's cool to do that. But if you're not careful, you're just going over it to re-shame yourself. And that's why it's like that survivor's guilt, because it's like, can I move on from this now? Like, can I allow myself to put that to bed and not keep getting it out? And I think the answer is yes, right? Until something else shows up in your relationship, which is where it normally shows up, right? Or some other area of our life. I mean, our lives just are relationships, really, isn't it? I mean, we experience everything through relationships. So, like, you know, if something, behavior starts coming up, then you might go, oh, I remember that book that I put back on that row. There might be something in there. Let me pull it out. But if it's just like, I'm stopping myself from having joy today, I'm stopping myself from being in today because I know there's that book over there and I did some shit and acted a certain way, or some shit happened X amount of years ago, and so now I feel guilty about just enjoying this, then it's like, come on, man. You're like, you know, if we're good people trying to live a good life, and if I can honestly look myself in the mirror and say that that's what I am, then I don't need to keep always batting myself over the head with past experiences just because I think there might be another layer of healing in there somewhere. You know, we can get obsessed with that. I'm sure of it. Yeah.
I definitely have.
Yeah.
Too much so at times. The, oh my goodness, there was something. Okay. How do you come across, like, I'm always fascinated by this too, where what is your process where, because you're creating a ton of not just content, but offerings and different things that you're putting out into the world and sharing, like the book last year. And I know that, like, Inner you transitioned into Deep, like all of these things that you kind of, what does that process looks like for you? Like, not just the nuts and bolts of like doing stuff, but more of like, what inspires you to create these things? What does that feel like? I'm just fascinated by it from a perspective. Like, I'm seeing everything very differently in my life lately, Josh, where we're all creators and we're creating things to share with the world. So the shit that you're sharing is coming through you from whatever, the universe, consciousness, right? And I'm just curious what that looks like for you. How do you tap into it? How do you trust it? How do you let it guide you? All that jazz.
Well, some of it is born out of a discomfort of being alone with myself.
Yeah.
So I escape into creation, and how can I create something else in the world to help people? So, I mean, I don't know. Like, again, like, how deep do we want, you know, how deep do we want to look at things? I'm just, you know, thinking and talking as we go, right? Because the truth is that I'm not very good at sitting still, and I'm not very good at just sitting still with myself. So one of the things that I do is think about something else that I could create. Is that just being creative? Or do I need to go and look for another book in the library and find out why I'm doing it, right? I don't know. Maybe it's a bit of all of them, right? But And also it's born out of like the love, man. I love being in community with people, you know. I love being of service to people. And one thing that I've learned, I did some IFS work recently, one-to-one stuff with a guy, really good IFS coach. And one of the things that we learned is that I've always been of service. Even when I was when I was drinking and I was out in the bars, I was of service. I was always trying to make people laugh, right? I was always trying to brighten up people's days. I was always trying to. So like, again, there's this whole, we talk about people pleasing, and that's definitely an issue of mine and shows up in my life in certain ways, right? But being of service to people is slightly different to people pleasing, right? People pleasing is like, I'm desperate to get you to love me. Being of service to people is doing things for the love of being of service to people, right? And there's a subtle difference in those two things. And so it's like being aware of those two, because I think if we're not careful, the healing journey and the space that we find ourselves in just becomes another mechanism to which we create a line that we can't quite reach, and that means we're not good enough. So then we go people pleasing, and then every time we're nice to somebody or we do something because we love making other people feel good, then we go, oh, well, that's people pleasing because I'm just obsessed with it. And it's like, nah, it's not all people pleasing, man. It's not all people pleasing. You know, when it's not even sometimes when it is at the expense of myself, it's because I love it. I love doing that. And it's my creative outlet, you know, it's my creative outlet as well. And I love it. I love creating content, as awkward as it makes me feel. I love it. So it's of the love. I don't know how much that answers your question or how much I've just rabbited on, but
no, it totally does. I like, and that's a really good, because it's almost like the same spectrum, the end of it being, you know, people pleasing from kind of like that survival state and trying to get your needs met and all of those kind of different things versus service. Same actions and behaviors sometimes, just on a completely different end of the spectrum. Because I think about that too a lot, where the being in service to other people and helping other people and doing all of these other kind of things, it does sometimes trigger that people pleaser thing inside of me, and I have to battle that internal narrative back and forth, where it's like, oh wait, this is actually a healthy expression of it. Even like we were talking about it recently, I don't remember if it was on the podcast or not, but codependency, where it's like, for a long time we were in the space of trying to heal codependency and trying to see all the different ways that we were codependent and how toxic codependency was and how important it was for us to differentiate between each other and all these kind of things. So we go too far, you know, past the end where what would quote unquote be balanced and healthy to like pushing away from it so much to where it's like, well, no, like it's okay to, like, codependency is a healthy human behavior that we need in order to feel safe and secure. And that's totally okay. Like we talked a lot recently about like co-regulation and how important that is and how important it is to be able to allow, you know, somebody else to help you regulate your nervous system in all the various ways that can look. And when we had that conversation, I'm like, I don't know, this sounds pretty codependent. We're in that codependent water again. But again, it's like, thinking about it too much, stressing about it too much, and just learning that there's a balanced place in the space of all of these different things.
Yeah, and a lot of what you end up looking at and exploring is hard to describe in words, you know, because a lot of what we're talking about in life, and this might sound a bit sort of woo-woo, but we're talking about like energies. Like in a marriage, in a relationship, you want to depend on your partner, right? Of course you want to depend on your partner. You should be able to depend on them, right? When there's moments when you can't get through, when it feels like the day is too much, you should be able to depend on your partner if they're available to be there, right? So you should be able to be codependent in that way, right? That is slightly different to, I don't know who I am away from who you are. All right, now maybe we've got a little bit of a problem, right? Which is, if you're not happy, then I've got to make you happy because I don't know how to be happy if you're not happy, right? So that, like, look, I'm sure there's people that could really get down into the nitty gritty and describe it well in words, but
Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Heritage Still. A few years back, after we learned all about the toxic chemicals in those nonstick pans, we decided to toss them out and go with 100% stainless steel cookware from Heritage Still.
Heritage Still uses high-quality, multi-clad stainless steel to give you unmatched durability, precision, and performance.
Their cookware is safe for any cooking surface. It's easy to clean, and every piece of cookware comes with a lifetime warranty. So whether you're a pro in the kitchen or just learning your way around, Heritage Still makes cooking easier, more precise, and more enjoyable.
Right now, listeners of the podcast can save 10% off anything at Heritage Still. Head over to heritagestill.us/Steph and Craig and be sure to enter promo code Steph and Craig at checkout to save 10%.
Invest in cookware that lasts a lifetime. Heritage Still, chef-grade cookware for less.
in the end, words are just things that we put together in order to try and make sense of things. So sometimes they're not adequate, you know. And the same happens when I'm talking about like the way that toxic people can sort of abuse you. Yeah, you start trying to describe it, and you're like, someone go, "Oh, so you mean narcissistic?" And you're like, "Well, kind of, but it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be that word. It could be fucking another word." Do you know what I mean? So, you know, I think when you're deep feelers and deep thinkers, like we are, you just think yourself into a hole if you're not careful. You know what I mean? You just got to think. Sometimes you have to go, "Do you know what? I feel all right. Do you feel all right? You feel all right? We're good. We're all right. Let's just fucking enjoy that for a minute." And actually, that's what I've tried to do with Deeper You, is I've tried to make it about joy and like, how do you come back to just enjoying life as well, not being stuck in the hole of healing, which can happen, you know?
Yeah. I think that's definitely like, I could, you know, probably like the last 5 years of our life, that's what it's been, is not, I don't want to say it, like describe it as necessarily like a hole, but it definitely feels like we went too far down that end and just got so heavily involved in the act of trying to heal and change and evolve and get through all of our shit strictly from a perspective of survival. Very much from like, we don't want to lose this relationship. We don't want to, I mean, independently as well, like both of us have struggled over the years with all sorts of different things, and trying to get to that spot where we feel secure enough to move forward that we don't have to necessarily think about what are we healing every single day. But it's a scary thing. It does, like the fact that it feels scary to set it down is a clear indication that we've been holding on to it too tight.
Yeah. Definitely went through that. There was like all the space of like the way you describe it as a whole, and in the moments where you're feeling good, when you feel like, instead of saying like, "Are you good?" Okay, like we're good, we're feeling good. It was, okay, what else can I find here? It was constantly digging, constantly, and never really allowing those moments of where you're like benefiting from all the healing and all the time you have put into yourself. It's like, no, there's got to be more. I got to take it another layer, instead of just letting the sun shine sometimes.
Yeah.
It has to be that. So really allowing the sun to shine has been something that I didn't feel. It felt like I was cheating and giving up, and it was going to come back and grab me if I did that, as to where now I really like the sunshine.
Yeah.
I really like to just really feel it, soak up the rays, right? Just soak it up and not have to always go digging. Something will come up when it's ready to. I don't have to always go digging for it.
Yeah, because ultimately what we're looking for is presence, right? And so if the very thing that we're using to try and find presence is taking us away from presence, because when you talk about like enjoying the sun, that's what we mean, right? We just mean, I just want to be present in the moment and just enjoy it. And yet we get to this stage where we find that presence, and then we're like, right, what else can I work on? And let me go back in, right? And it just becomes the new thing that keeps you away from the present moment. And I do think that that's the trap. And, you know, I had somebody, a lady named Leona Waller on my podcast recently, and we talked about the self-improvement trap. And I do think that there is a little bit of like hyper capitalism that sort of teaches you that as well. Like it's become this new, like, how healed are you? You know, like some people sometimes say to me, you know, I hope one day I can get as far along the line as you are. And I'm like, fucking don't make me the benchmark, right? Like I create content. Come and be a fly on the wall in my house, and you'll probably think, I don't want to be as far along as he is, whatever that means, right? Because it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that, you know? I have days when I feel truly present, and I want as much as I can to enjoy those, to be spontaneous, to be in the day, to think this is fun, because no other reason, because then it's fun, and I'm here, and I'm alive. And if we can't allow ourselves that, then what's the point anyway? Do you know what I mean? What's the point in doing all of this if we're still not able to be present? And it's a trap in many ways in that sense, you know. That I think, by the way, that I think everybody that goes on this journey discovers.
I had this oftentimes in the middle of the night when I wake up, like that 3 o'clock window where I got to wake up and take a piss, and I come lay back down to bed and I can't quite go to sleep and my mind's racing. And then eventually I kind of drift off to sleep, and the thoughts that are coming to me in that space, or even in the early morning when it's like my mind starts, I don't even want to call it ruminating, because it's not really my mind, but in that space, in that little limbo area of consciousness, I'll get some of the juiciest stuff sometimes. Sometimes it's like some of the best creative inspiration and different ideas and things like that. And then other times it's real self-reflection stuff that comes through, almost like the things behind the things that I couldn't see because my conscious intellectual mind was in the way. And this morning it was all about kids and being a parent and raising kids. And it was this really interesting thing, because like a week or two ago, I was processing through. See, we're talking about how diving into this stuff becomes too much. And then I'm like, let me tell you a little, I'm dreaming about this shit.
Yeah. Let me just tell you about how we can dive into it again. Yeah.
We're going to go a little bit deeper, even into the time when you're supposed to be sleeping. I'm still processing shit. But the idea was, I'm in this constant state with our kids, because all of our kids are adults. And so it's a different level of connection with them than when they were little, right? And I'm looking at this dynamic of all the things that I did wrong and trying to make up for those things that I did wrong, because I want my kids to truthfully love me. And not only do I want them to love me, but I want them to feel my love. I still want to be in connection with them and everything like that. But when I looked at it and I got real serious about it, there was this component in there where it was like, I didn't want them, like I didn't want to be wrong. And I don't mean like a bad person or something like that. I think there's this real subconscious program that I've done something wrong and I need to make up for it. And I don't think it has anything to do with my kids. I think it has to do with childhood stuff. And I think it probably has to do with like a program that we all get to some extent because of culture and society and religion and things like that. But I saw that same dynamic of like, I've done something wrong and I have to make up for it, just simply playing out with my kids. And it's no different than when I was a kid growing up and getting in trouble for something that I quote unquote did wrong, and then having to make up for it. So just that like base program of I'm wrong and I need to make up for it. And then that just gets repeated over and over and over and over throughout my life. And I was just seeing how that was the program that I've been kind of like navigating with my kids lately, where I did something wrong and I have to make up for it. And the truth of it is, obviously, I mean, it's just bullshit, obviously. But I'm curious if you have that same, not necessarily like thought process, but that same program of like, you're inherently wrong to some extent, and you're trying to make up for it in all of these different ways and all of these different relationships.
Yeah, man, I hear you. And I often say that if you look hard enough at any of our struggles, you'll always trace it back to, I'm not enough, I'm not lovable, who I am, and so my actions are an attempt to make me lovable and to make me enough. And I think everything traces back to that. I mean, one exercise we could probably all do, which would be like, how is my action right now a reaction to thinking I'm not enough? And I think there'll probably nearly always be an answer. Because I think that's the core wound of anybody on the journey, is a deep belief that I'm not enough. So how do I be enough? Whether that's showing up as a parent, whether that's showing up as a parent that thinks I've done something bad, so how do I put it right? Because if I'm not enough, then if I mess up, I'm really far away from being enough.
Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Nutrotonic. I've been a big fan of Shilajit for a really long time, but I've really struggled to find a brand that prioritizes quality above all else. Most of what's out there is really low quality, diluted, and packed with unnatural fillers, but not Nutrotonic's Shilajit. Nutrotonic's Shilajit is a rare form of red Himalayan Shilajit. It's packed with all the essential minerals, fulvic acid, and nutrients that your body needs. Shilajit is going to help you boost your energy, your focus, and your overall health and well-being. Nutrotonic Shilajit is the real deal. It's sourced directly from the high-altitude regions of the Himalayas. Listeners of the Steph and Craig Show can save 15% off of everything at Nutrotonic's website. Click the link in the description and be sure to use code Steph and Craig to save that 15% off. Power up and fuel your body the way nature intended with Nutrotonic's Shilajit.
So I'm always trying to get back to being enough. I'm always trying to get back to being enough. The same is true. You know, you asked me the question about my work and like the inspiration to do all of them things. Some of that will be driven by, you know, if I just do a bit more, if I get to this level, I'll be enough. I think it drives so much of what we do. Now, you know, I love the way you described it. Was you saying programming, right? Is it like you're programming? How much of that is basic human programming? I mean, like, if we were all born thinking we are enough, and we lived our whole life believing we are enough, would we do anything? Right? Is there a certain amount of programming in us that needs us to think that we're not enough so that we try and be the best parent, right? I don't know, man. The more you look at some of this stuff, the more you think, you know, you're probably a good dad because you lay in bed at night and think what you think to a degree. You don't want it keeping you up every night or whatever, and same as all the other things we talked about, you don't want it to be all consuming. But what's the alternative? A dad who just assumes he is enough, and then where does your motivation come to be a good dad? So I don't know, man. When does that level of I'm not enoughness become a problem? Do we ever want to feel like, yes, we do. By the way, let me just completely contradict everything I've just said. But we do want to feel enough in it. And the most loving moments that I've had with myself or had with other people is when I feel like I'm enough. When I feel like I don't need to give any more. I am exactly enough in this moment. We need those moments. But maybe they should be moments. And that's what life is. Fucking chasing and working hard for those moments. Maybe. Sounds good, doesn't it? Sounds good.
Right. Yeah, more and more I look at it from the perspective of like, you know, I try to hone in on what things are and get so clear on them because it gives me a sense of safety. Like it literally makes me feel like, okay, I understand that thing and it fits nicely. I liked your metaphor of like the books and everything like that. It's like, okay, I understand that and I can put it back on the shelf and I've got a place for it. And if I need to go back and refer to it, I know that information is right there because I've processed it, understood it, reflected upon it, like really sat with it. And then immediately I'll be like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I have to throw it all out the window because everything has changed so significantly for me where it's just this constant roll of like what I believed yesterday, I don't believe today. I'm pretty certain that's going to happen tomorrow. And that process just keeps rolling where it's like, I don't know anything except the things that I know in the moment. And that I'm certain of. I'm like, I'm 100% certain it's this. Until the next breath when it's like, yeah, I don't actually know what that is.
We always say in recovery, like when in recovery from alcohol and that, one of the common themes is that you set out looking for the answer. Then you find it and you fucking find the answer and it's amazing. Then you realize it wasn't the answer. It just felt like it at the time. And then you do that again, that process 2 or 3 times. And then you realize, actually, the freedom comes in admitting I'm only ever going to know very little in this world. And actually, I've always said, I wake up every day with the absolute belief that I could be wrong about everything that I've ever believed. And actually, when you do that, I think that is the freedom. Because think about like online, which is where we can interact with masses of people, yeah? The people that make you feel most uncomfortable are the ones who are fucking sure that what they believe is the right thing. The people that make you feel free are the ones who are like, I love what you think. I don't think that. I don't think the same as you at the moment. But I think it's a great perspective. Because they know, they have an underlying knowing. I might be wrong. I'm not going to argue too hard with you because I fucking might agree with you tomorrow. My life experience has taught me not to argue too hard with people because I might think the same as you tomorrow. And like, that's humility as well, right? Humility is like, I'm not going to hang my hat too sternly on anything because I change my mind all the time. There's a book called I Might Be Wrong. Can't remember who read it, but I did read it and it's very good. That's all I've got for you on the book because I can't remember nothing about it. But I read it because I liked the title because of this very thing. And it was a very good book. I remember thinking it's a very good book.
What do you see as the next thing for you, Josh? Like when you think about your platform and everything that you've built, what are you hoping to go into next and take it next? Community.
Like I'm really passionate about trying to build communities. I'm really passionate about like the sort of social action work that I do, activism style work in its own way. I've always covertly and not openly said it, but this is something that's in the last few months I feel more free to say. I've always had a bit of a Robin Hood style business plan, which is I go to corporate companies and I charge as much money as I can when I go to them so that I can go and do activism work that makes me little or no money, so that I can do communities that are accessible to everybody, so that I can offer free spaces to them and all of that sort of stuff, you know? And the reason I know I can say that openly now is because I'm living it. I am doing that, right? I don't make anywhere near as much money as people might think, or that I probably should for what I do, right? In terms of because I'm so hell-bent on like finding ways to build these communities. You know, I travel around and do the belong events. Many of them don't make any money. But I'm allowed to swear on here. I fucking love them. I love doing them. I love creating non-pretentious spaces with no barrier to access that anybody is welcome to. And some of this was born out of like, I get invited to like these wellness events, like these big glitzy wellness events now. And I fucking stand in them and think, when I was really needed this shit, you wouldn't have let me anywhere near this place. I'm like, I fucking don't want to be here. This is not it. This is not it. It should be accessible. And I'm figuring out ways to continue to make the money to be able to do those spaces in a way that is accessible to anyone and everyone, you know, free when it needs to be. So yeah, that's where I'm heading. I want to reinstall community, what is now old school community, places where people can come together. You don't have to do or be anything or look a certain way, talk a certain way, because I think it's another mistake that like the healing spiritual realm sort of does. It just becomes this sort of posturing, like speaking a certain way, acting a certain way, dressing a certain way, and all that sort of stuff. And I want to kick back against that, and I want to just create proper community that everyone's welcome to. And I'm really passionate about it. I'm passionate about figuring out how I'm going to do it, because I haven't really figured it out yet. Not fully, but I'm doing it. And you know, again, just quickly to come back to the question you asked me earlier about how I do these things. Most things I do, I just think I'm going to do it and put it out there and see what happens. I'm very fortunate that I certainly have whatever the opposite is to perfectionism. That's what I got. I'm more like, that's fucking, let's just put that out and see what happens. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah. So I don't know if that answers the question.
It totally does, dude. Like when you think about the idea of all of that you just got done sharing about community and creating all of that, what's the really, like, what would be the big vision, the big dream, like holding that space of like, if I could, if all the cards align perfectly, this is what it would look like. This is what I would do.
I would be doing pretty much what I do today. I'd be doing pretty much what I do today. Coming together in spaces with people to for no other reason than to come together and feel safe and feel validated. And the bigger picture is that other people would be doing that too. That's what I want, man. Like, and I fucking mean it, man. I've been through, in the last, like, I left my job like 8 years ago, right? And I've been through the whole spectrum of it. I've chased money at times, and I had to go, fucking hell, man. I'm losing my fire because I'm just chasing money. I was getting to it at one point when I was like, well, there's no point in doing that because it won't really make that much money, and it's much better if I do that. And I'm like, nah, man, this is not why I came in. So, like, I had to navigate that, work myself through that. Then I went, you have to be careful of the guru complex, right? Of like my way's the right way. And I never want to create spaces where it's like, come and do my 5-point thing and it'll fucking change your life, right? Never want to do that. I don't want to do that. I want to create spaces that pull everybody up, And so I just did my full day retreat Saturday, first one I've ever done. We gave 2 spaces away to people from Mums in Need, which is a charity that supports mums experiencing post-separation abuse, right? Like even down to the gifts that I gave to everybody at the end, I went and sourced them from a local independent lady who sells crystals, yeah? And like took her Instagram account and was like, let me make sure that I can promote you. And then at the end of the day, I always say to everybody, if any of you are facilitators, come in my community. I pay you the same as I pay anybody else. Like take each other's numbers, like share what you do. Like if you do Reiki or whatever, let's like build each other up, man. And that's what I truly believe in, because capitalism in and of itself, I don't see it as a problem, right? Capitalism, true capitalism, is people that work really hard to do well for the community, do well in themselves. They are rewarded for that, right? So some people as a result of that will get rich because they work really, really hard for doing stuff for the community. We've gone past that. We live in hyper-capitalism now, which is screw the community, money over everything. How do I get as rich as I can and take away the wealth from everybody else? That's not capitalism. That's something different. It's like hyper-capitalism. We can have a capitalist society and still do good for one another. So yeah, I know that I'm going on little tirades here when I talk about it, but I'm fucking passionate about it. Yeah.
No, we can feel it, dude. It's important. Josh, this has been wonderful. Thank you for sticking through all the fun technical difficulties that we had at the beginning.
I feel like I feel like this is half. We've got to do. I have to come back. I feel like we've just scratched the surface, man.
Yeah. No, definitely.
I mean that as well. I'm not saying that for effect.
Well, you're welcome back anytime.
Yes.
Like, I'm such a big fan of your stuff, Josh. I love everything that you're putting out and sharing in the world. And we had such a good time with you last year and again this time. So you're welcome on the podcast anytime, and we definitely want you to come back. Yes. We want you to come over here to the States. Like, truthfully, I'm trying to figure out how to get you over here.
Whereabouts are you in the States?
We're on the East Coast. Not technically. We're not technically. We're in Tennessee.
East Tennessee.
So like Nashville, Tennessee, that would be a great place. There's a huge community in Nashville that would be like super drawn to all the stuff that you share. But no matter what, you come over here to the States, I'll hop on a plane and come hang out with you somewhere.
Yeah, well, it's on the cards for October in LA.
Nice.
So that's like the opposite side, isn't it, to what you just said?
Yeah.
So yeah, man, watch this space because it is well on the cards. I mean, that's not just like a a hope. That is like, I'm just waiting for confirmation and then I can announce it. Yeah.
That's exciting, dude.
October in LA.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Sounds great.
It would be amazing if you were able to make it. Yeah. And then,
I mean, it's an easy flight.
and once we do that one, that's one done. And then, you know, more to come. Then maybe the next one is Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
That's what you said, isn't it? My geography's so bad. When you said it was like east, I had to go, I don't know if you saw me, I had to go northeast with my fingers to figure out, okay, I'm talking about the other side with LA, yeah.
Yeah, we moved out. It's a long story. Anyways, okay. Josh Connolly, it's joshconnolly.uk is your website?
.co.uk, yeah, joshconnolly.co.uk, and then just Josh_FFW on social media.
Yeah, and Dysfunctional is your podcast, dude. It's so good. I highly recommend it. I've really enjoyed it.
I have to get you guys on there. Maybe we'll do part 2 on there. You two come on there. That would make sense, wouldn't it?
There you go. That'd be fun.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do that, man. Brilliant.
Okay, everybody, go check out Josh. And your book is available here in the U.S. It's Them, Not You.
Yeah, people should buy it. It's amazing.
They should buy it. Yeah. We'll have links to that too. So.
Thank you.
Wait, what is our
Expect the best. Bring it home, Craig.
Plan for the greatest.
We got a wild ride. Wait and see, you and me. We were meant to be.
Thanks for tuning into the episode. If you haven't yet, please take a moment and subscribe, rate, review, and share this episode with somebody. There's new episodes of the Steph and Craig Show every week. And if you enjoyed this one, be sure to check out some of these clips as well. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you all on the next episode.